who is spending big still at this point? That's the problem. Manfred talking about it, and of course, a comment from Scott Boras. Deadlines are deathlines to the players. It's a death of their right because a player goes all that time to earn that right to become a free agent. It's an artificial reason not to get your value. Teams cannibalize deadlines. Everything they would do would be around the deadline. I'll wait and get this value at this time because I have a deadline rather than what's the player worth. In my mind, nailed it. That's true. Okay. There's two reasons for this. Okay. One is to try and drive prices down. Two makes sense to me. Two makes sense to me. Business. Fans want to know who they have going into this season. It plays to the excitement. Once spring training comes around, which is now, it's not the same. The coverage of the story, not the same. The season ticket sales, not the same. So even the marketing preparation of photos and all of these things that go into books and posters and everything else, right? It's not going to be there if on March 12th, the Giants signed Blake Snell, the reigning Cy Young winner in the American League. That part does suck. There's just, in my mind, not a solution that's going to be approved by both sides. So the moral to all of this is nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen.
Nothing's going to happen. This is all posturing. It's all posturing for the CBA.
Always. Both teams. Both sides.
Of course. But it's, when the commissioner comes out and says this, everyone hears this is like, oh, this is a great idea. They're going to get this. No, they're not. They're not going to get that because, the Players Association is going to have to approve it. It's not going to happen.
They rejected it so hard.
Of course they did right away.
They matumboed it.
They were like, no.
They were like, absolutely not, as expected.
But here's the other thing, though. I will say this, that, we just talked to Bob Costa. He was talking about the NBA and the NFL. They do this a lot of times. Like, they do a big thing when free agency hits. Baseball doesn't really do it. And now the reason people are calling for this is because you look up and you got 4 of the top free agents that haven't signed. Chapman, Bellinger, Snell, Montgomery, right? They haven't signed. We're February 16th. All the teams have reported. All the teams are in camp. Games start like next week.
Do you really think those players aren't going to play ball this year?
I do, but it still sucks when you have crowds. Guys that come in late, they usually just, I don't know, it messes up the timing of everything. It just doesn't. It makes for everyone's rushed. Oh God, we got to get this guy ready so fast, and then if they don't get off to a good start, everyone's like, well, see, he didn't sign on time. So okay. I don't know. I don't know. It just, that's why this is even brought up, is because those guys haven't signed. And then you get Scott Boras piping in on it, as he should, because they're his clients. And of course he wants more time because then he can try to get every dollar.
Yeah, but Kratz, when you wait this long and now spring training is starting, here's what I think Boras thinks could happen. On the pitching side, oh shit, Kyle Bradish is hurt, might need TJ, right? It's not official yet, but obviously he's got a UCL issue. So if that popped up in a few weeks, no one would be surprised. Also, when guys show up to spring training, it's a little bit of, oh, he looks better. He's got better velo. He's in better shape. But it's also a lot of, oh, there's an arm issue. He's going down, his shoulder. There's a UCL issue. So a big contender with deeper pockets could have a problem in the next couple of weeks, and that could cause them to pick up the phone and have more of a conversation. On the other side, with position players, owner checks in with GM. How do they look? They look okay. We probably could use a bat. I mean, you've already made it this far. Now you actually get to see the product that you have in spring training. It could lead to a little more money being pushed across the table. Agree or disagree?
Besides the injury part, I completely disagree. You're not signing somebody to fill in a spot. These 4 guys that are coming are perennial all-stars, perennial Gold Glove winners, Cy Young winners, World Series champion. Like, you're not getting this guy. Oh, okay, we got to panic and get Blake Snell. Now, there could be a case where Zach Wheeler doesn't want to sign the extension in the next week, and the Phillies are like, all right, that's fine. We're going to allot that money to Blake Snell. Scott, how much for Blake Snell? We're going to bring him in this year. Taijuan Walker's the odd man out for a little bit. And then we have Blake Snell for the next 6 years because Zach Wheeler doesn't. Injuries, like we're not panicking and picking up Blake Snell because Kyle Bradish is out, whether the Orioles were going to spend or not.
Okay, the Yankees made an offer to Blake Snell. What if Cole got hurt? You don't think that they would pick up the phone again with everything that they've invested into this coming season?
Maybe the Yankees. Maybe.
Right.
Like,
So I'm bringing up some examples. I mean,
Logan Webb goes down.
Right. It's a weird strategy, but you've already made it this far. It's a lottery ticket.
That's not what Scott's waiting on. Scott's not going.
No, Scott's waiting on some owner to get desperate.
Well, how does an owner get desperate?
Just hey, this guy's still out there. We can steal him.
Yes. He's not. They're not. You're not. As much as people are like, oh, there's a competition in camp. There's not a competition in. The Phillies aren't looking at Johan Rojas's BP and his first 5 games going, I don't think so. Let's go get Cody Bellinger. They know what they have. As much as people are like, best shape of my life, all this stuff, you're not really in competition in spring training for positions that are going to be filled by the free agents that are still out there.
Yeah. I don't know. This probably isn't going to happen for numerous reasons.
The signing deadline?
The signing deadline.
No.
So, I mean, it's kind of, but it's just interesting, the timing of when he said it. And plus he's retiring. So, you know, it's all positioning. It's all posturing. It's all for the bargaining in a couple years. And
not getting players signed this late, though, is bad for the game.
Agreed. Especially when it's like 4 of the top free agents
yes.
in the whole sport. Not having those 4. I mean, how is Jordan Montgomery, who was like the best pitcher in the postseason last year, not signed? Blake Snell won the Cy Young. He was the best pitcher in the National League last year. He's not signed. Cody Bellinger had one of the best years offensively, not signed.
I think part of what is going on too, teams are afraid of offering Scott Boras a contract. Like, they don't want to sit there and go, Scott, I mean, Ken kind of hit on it the other day. I think it was on Monday. He hit on it like, if they offer somebody an extension, they'll be like, oh, okay, cool, thank you. I'll take that information. Like, so are there even any contract offers out there? We talked to Josh Hader the other day. He had one legitimate offer. Teams are afraid of offering these guys because of how that sets the market for what an agent is going to take it and go, oh, okay, well, this is what the offer is. Now I'll shop this mark. Now I'll shop this offer.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
The process has gotten super weird and annoying. It's not as fun anymore.
It's
meticulous.
This is the once-in-a-lifetime chance for these players who are the elite players in the world to hit free agency. And you work so hard to get to free agency. A deadline can't happen, won't happen. And Boras is not, as much as he's trying to get the most for that client, he's like an owner. He's trying to get the most for his next client also, because he knows if he can up the bar for Blake Snell, his next 3-time Cy Young free agent who has better numbers than Blake Snell will get more.
But there has to be teams for
it takes 2 to tango.
There has to be teams for you to get that kind of money.
As I've said, and people always, I use the analogy. Your house, you might think, is worth $20 million, and you put it on the market for $20 million, and you get 10 offers for $2 million, and you're like, well, damn, it's worth 20 in my mind. And then you get another 10 offers for $2 million. Guess what your house is worth on the market? $2 million. So you better take the $2 million and get out if you need to.
The difference
right? So if you're Blake Snell and you're Scott Boras, and listen, I'm all for players getting every dollar, but if the Yankees say, hey, you're worth $125, just throwing random numbers out there, and then you're like, oh, they made this offer, and then you go to every other team, they're like, we ain't beating that one, then guess what? You better take the $125, or they're going to be like, as we all know, I'm retired, Kratz retired, every player we have on here is retired. The game goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And if Blake Snell doesn't pitch this year, guess what? Baseball's still going to be played. It's still going to be awesome. It'd be better with Blake Snell in his prime, but
my thing is there's not that many teams that care about going after these remaining players. Is that accurate? Okay?
There's where I
We
want to
just-
put my effort into.
Dude, we just had Shai Davidi on. Ross Askins spoke in the last day or two. And his comments, I always like to say paraphrasing so no one comes after me, were that they're not adding unless they're subtracting, right? And he didn't just mean position, he meant payroll. So if there's some trade that emerges, cool. But I think he said it without saying it because you're not allowed to say this. It's against the rules of the sport. We're not signing Matt Chapman unless he's suddenly cheap as fuck and he's on one of those 1-year deals. We're talking to Mustakis later. He was actually a part of this at one point. We might be able to ask him. You know what I'm saying? And it actually worked out really well for him. He signed that 1-year deal. He had the qualifying offer from the Royals, right? And then he said no, and then he ended up signing back with them. Had a great year, then signs with the Reds for, I think, 4 years, 60. So it worked out for him. But that could happen again. And that's where a team could jump in. But if not, the impression I got from a team like the Blue Jays was, we're good. Off-season's over. We're done. We're not signing dudes to 50, 100, 150. No fucking way. We're done with that. And so if they're done, now we cross them off. There's not that many teams left. It's the same two teams we keep talking about. The Cubs and the Giants. They're not signing 6 dudes, right?
They're not signing 6.
Maybe one each,
They're not.
and it would be maybe one each, right? Maybe the Cubs get Bellinger back. Maybe the Giants sign Snell or Montgomery. They're not signing both.
Competition is what we should focus our energy on. Not a trade, a deadline, signing deadline, or competition. Make sure every team wants to compete. And if they're not competing, give me your 3-year, 2-year window of why you're not competing this year. Like, what happened? Oh, we lost this player. We don't have this revenue. Like, be upfront about it. The competition part. There should be more teams that are in the mix for Matt Chapman, for Jordan Montgomery, for Cody Bellinger on a one-off year that he just had.
So we can do this because it doesn't take long, even though there are a lot of teams in the league. Just type in like MLB standings in Google, okay? Just so you can pop up the teams, or MLB teams, and just sift through, okay? When you do that, you're like, who is spending big still at this point? You know, that's the problem. Do it real quick, okay? Baltimore, not likely until that sale gets done. Tampa Bay, never. Toronto just said they're done. Yankees, sure, maybe. It sounds like they already had some combos with Snell, and that's still a possibility if the price comes down. Boston, broke. Twins, broke. Tigers, done. Cleveland, broke.
Sarcasm here.
A little bit, not that much.
He's role playing.
Yeah.
Let him go.
White Sox, rebuilding. Royals, done. And did well. Good for them. Houston, done. Rangers
Rangers
TV.
are the one they're waiting on the TV deal, but they would go Montgomery over Snell.
That's where Monty's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I think he's wanted to go, but it's a little questionable there. I mean, Hader said the call was, we got weird TV money shit going on. We're not really doing anything crazy. So, okay, we'll see. They won, and they did some things.
They need
If they don't, I know they need
Seattle
one,
broke. Oakland, definitely, yes.
Angels, I have no idea what's going on with the Angels at this point. I can't figure them out. I don't know what
they're going to get. Somebody.
Depends. You would think so. I don't know. Which side of the pillow Artie wakes up on over the next month. That's really how it
cutting
goes.
Payroll though.
I know
cutting payroll.
But then I think it was Heyman said like they're still like looking into some of these free
agents. Rangers payroll, their TV deal's done now. They figured it out. So
I know
that's not an excuse anymore.
Now
go to the National League. Giants are the one.
Right, National
and
League.
The Cubs.
Braves done. Phillies.
Maybe. They get the right deal.
Yeah. Miami broke. Mets next year. Nationals not ready and they're trying to get sold.
Yeah.
Brewers, I think done. Cubs. I'll give you 1 sec on the Cubs here. So someone wrote this the other day and I thought it was interesting. When it was Theo and Jed Hoyer, Theo was the aggressive and Jed was the, hey, let's take it down a notch. Let's think about this. We need our prospects, whatever. So there's a little more safety in the Cubs front office these days. Like if the price comes down, we're not doing anything crazy. Cincinnati done. Pittsburgh broke. I think St. Louis done.
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers, clap it up. You crushed it. Diamondbacks crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're done.
Padres done probably.
Rockies.
Who?
Colorado. They have a 4A team.
Derek just said in our chat, still think M should sign Snell. Well, Derek, do you have $150+ million? Because the Mariners are not giving out money
Plus,
like
Snell
that.
tries to win too much.
They're hoping to
Tries
get
to
a
win.
54% discount.
True. I mean, the Mariners should have acquired Soto. They should have signed Soler. They should have signed Snell. They're not
Here's
operating
what the
like
teams
that.
are doing. They're waiting for these players to panic.
Yep.
And then bring the prices
And
down.
then bring
But
the
still,
prices
only one team is going to get that one player. It's not like, ooh, I can't wait for his price to come. They don't care that much about these players.
True. If I'm Cody Bellinger did it last year, he did the 1 year parachute deal with the Cubs, right? And had a great year, but it hadn't been signed. If I'm, Blake Snell's a little bit older and his track record is a little more. If I'm maybe Montgomery, I'm thinking about doing that. Matt Chapman might need a 1 year deal to bounce back.
Chapman's the only one you can make a case in my mind. The other three have nothing to prove. Cy Young,
True.
playoff stud. No. And Bellinger had a great bounce back year and already did the pillow contract. He's like, I got to do another one. Yeah. I'm just saying what their brain is going through. Chapman's the only one where you could say he got an injury. He was really good in the beginning and then tailed off. I could see that.
I would say Monty's the one that's the safest. I mean, I think we're splitting hairs here, but I think Monty's the safest. Monty's going to get, because of his consistency, you know what you're getting. And I don't think his price is fluctuating too much. Maybe he's waiting to see what Snell gets, or maybe, I think Monty is the one that won't sign a 1 year pillow contract. But Bellinger, what are you getting? I mean, I think Bellinger's more of a roller coaster than Blake Snell is. And Chapman, I think consistency with Chapman, whatever you pay him, you are getting elite defense. Whether you think he's worth $100 million or you think he's worth a 1 year $20 million or whatever the franchise tag is, whatever that is, that's what you could get him at. I don't know, but to me, I think Monty's the most secure.
And I'm going to go against some people in the chat that are saying the Cubs don't show safety or a conservative route. They overpaid for counsel. Guys, they paid a couple million extra for a manager when manager salaries have been suppressed? That's not going wild. Cubs gone wild. They spent, do you know how much Craig Counsell cost? The same amount essentially this year as Jacob Junis for the Brewers, their fifth starter. So that's not the same. Going wild would have been signing Snell or Montgomery, bringing Bellinger back.
Chapman. They're signing all four of them. That's going. You know what that is? That's full throttle.
That's full throttle. Some teams that were expected to be aggressive this offseason just weren't.
The Cubs were the main one that everyone thought was, and even the Blue Jays to an extent were thought to be possible. And the Red Sox obviously were one that everyone was thinking of. So, but I mean, the Yankees made their move with Soto, right? And Stroman. Those were their moves. Right, the Dodgers obviously blew it up with Ohtani, Yamamoto, Teoscar.
They went wild.
All of them. In Arizona, Eduardo Rodriguez, Genie Suarez, and they made some moves. Jock Peterson. So listen, I just don't know. That's why agents get paid a lot of money because they got to figure this out. It's like puzzle pieces, right? It's like, all right, how do I find a team that can fit Bellinger and Snell, and you're also like, if you have Montgomery and Snell, and you have one team. Are you bidding them against each other?
He deals with that all the time, though.
But you know what I'm saying?
I know.
Like, let's say the Yankees call him, or let's say the Giants call him and say, hey, we got one spot. We want a left-handed starter. You have Snell and Montgomery. Will either one of them take 5 years, 150? Then you call them both and say, hey, they offered this. Well, either one of you take it. What
Who
if
do
they
you call first?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And then what happens if they both go, I'll take it? Then what?
And you call back and say they both want it, and then the team decides.
It'll be a good question to ask Moose. Moose is Boras' client.
Yeah. Sounds like AJ's role playing a lot now, though.
I'm just stating what would happen. Like if you're Scott Boras, and the Giants call you and say, we got one spot and there's a left-handed starter. We'll take either one. Here's the numbers. And you got no other calls from any other team. Which one do you call first? Let's say you call Jordan Montgomery. He says, I'll take it. Then you call Blake Snell and he says, well, I'll take it too. Oh, well, shit. Montgomery already said yes. You put him on a three-way call and say, all right, guys, here's the deal. Who says yes first? They're like, yes. Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.